If you're an individual who's been looking to create content on your social platforms, but you either just don't have the time or just don't know how to create that content in the first place, maybe you're stuck in, one of the four stages. Maybe it's the ideas, maybe it's the scripts, maybe it's the editing, the recording, could be the publishing as well, whichever one. In this video, I'm going to tell you a system that you might only need to spend 45 minutes a week, a little bit more perhaps if you're going to be covering all of the steps yourself, but it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of guesswork. Because in our experience, when it comes to, creating content, and we do this for 50 plus different industries, not just brands, industries, there's kind of like a couple factors that also take us time, and we want to make sure that we're just giving the solution that we've implemented to make sure that we save time to you pretty much for free, so you can implement this starting tomorrow for your business. Because of course nowadays, especially in the world we're living in, content is just one of those things where it gives visibility to your business. Either you exist online or you just do not exist. Like, it's making things extremely difficult for business owners to get that recognition for their work that they used to get years ago just by word of mouth or a couple of blog posts here and there. But now the game has completely switched. Like, you might be in business for 20 to 30 years, maybe even 10 plus 8 plus years, and you're fantastic at what you do. But now you have these competitors who've been in business for 2 plus years, but they have a big social following, and they're pretty much kind of rampaging through. They're taking all of these newer prospects, these newer clients, there's newer leads, and then you're perhaps still relying on the word of mouth side of things or referrals. And I want to make sure that, that gets changed, because we want to make sure that we're putting actual experts out into the social media platforms where where prospects can get a better service because they know you exist. So I want to make sure that I help you out with a system that you can implement tomorrow, and then also give you a food for thought on why you need to be posting content in the first place. Because just consistent posting by itself is going to give you 30 plus engagement. If you just post one video out on a daily basis, and I want to make sure we understand what a video is. Let's say a video over here includes a good hook. This means, you're just talking to the right people. Maybe you're just saying something. Maybe let's say if you're a lawyer, you start the video off with something like, here are 5 ways you can avoid, getting screwed over by the insurance. That's a hook. So that's kind of like a hook part of the video. You need to make sure that you're actually providing them value, and then also making sure that you have, a call to action. What do you want the prospect to do or your viewer to do after they watch the video? What does not mean content? So an image post is not a content. A video which has nothing to do with your services, it has nothing to do with your business, it just looks nice, like a happy new year video, or a beautiful graphically created video, those motion graphic stuff, you know what I'm talking about. Those don't count as video either way, so we're not going to be using those. I'll use a red marker for you here. So we're just going to be focusing on this, videos, actual videos with a good value, hook, call to action. So if we're posting this on a consistent basis daily, or at the very least minimum, I would say 5 times a week, you will by definition automatically get this over here, 30 plus engagement. Because Instagram will only prioritize active accounts. They were not going to prioritize accounts which has random waves. Now, of course, if you've already grown your page to 80,000 followers, 100,000 followers, so if you have a big following, of course, you already have an audience built where even if you post after a month, you still have some audience built. But of course, you're not going to get your spike is going to go down. Your viewership overall is going to go down. But for newer accounts, anything under 50,000 followers, you need to make sure that we're posting daily, and then we're maintaining that engagement that you're getting from the content. So just by doing the minimum, which is consistent posting, which unfortunately is the minimum nowadays, you can see a 30% engagement difference compared to people or your competitors who are barely posting online. So that's 30% of people who know you more than your competitors. Think about this the reverse way as well. Let's say your competitors are posting and you're not. So they're by definition getting more traffic just by posting the bare minimum content. And you can of course overtake them if you improve the quality of the content, if you improve the ideas of the content, you can widen the gap. So this is just by consistently posting. And if you maintain that posting, 20 to 40% of your lead gen can come from social platforms. And this is, of course, comparing to businesses that don't necessarily post. And for the businesses that don't post, it also gets harder to establish trust. Those brands just have a hard time engaging their audience overall. So it's very important to keep in mind. And then a couple of things I would mention is 46.1% of people use Instagram to research brands. So let's say they saw your ad or if they saw anything wherever they found you, 46.1% of those people are going to be researching your brand on Instagram. And 61% of them are going to be using it to find their next purchase. So you have to make sure for the people who are part of these percentages, you have to make sure you're active online and you have a profile that people can go in and get answers from. So your chances of selling them becomes a little higher. So you have to make sure we're implementing this pretty much right off the bat. So a couple of things we can pretty much right off the bat do for ideation is I want you to think of all of your client objections and problems. Think of what your clients, like what are the problems they're facing. Create content using those. So this could be like pain points, like what are they exactly searching on Google? Like what do they, I'm pretty sure you've talked to a lot of customers at this point. Write down all of the things, like just sit down for like 45 minutes and then kind of like make a whole list of questions they've asked and repetitive questions. I'm like, okay, so I've heard this person say this thing over and over again. Write that down. Perhaps it's, it's maybe a common objection you get. Like, okay, so if some people are very skeptical of your service, write that down as well and then address it into a content video. Because the more you do these and the more you stack it up and people watch it, the sale becomes much easier as well. Because instead of you guys discussing over these pain points and objections, you guys can pretty much just get to the business. I would highly recommend you make a list and then create content using this list pretty much right off the bat. And then of course you can, within your industry, look at what other people are doing. So let's say you're like a lawyer, or like if you're, like a web design coach or something. I know it's super niche. You can literally go to Instagram and then TikTok and see what people are already creating and what type of content is already working, and save all of those ideas and just make your own version of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be we're not asking you to reinvent the wheel. You just have to do what they're already doing and make your own version of it. Or just in even some cases, you can just copy it, like just blank, because if it's a trend, they probably are not the ones who created it. So you can just hop onto the trend. So instead of you thinking about new ideas, you need to think kind of like with the information you already have and homework people have already done. And that's pretty much your first 30 pieces of content right there. And then from there, whenever you have enough data, and by data I mean like you've already posted 30 pieces of content, you can see which ones were the ones that performed the best. So in a series of maybe like low views, like one of them spiked up, you can kind of like take that content and make 4 more variations of that specific piece or that specific topic, because you already know that people enjoy that. So you have this kind of like tree thing going on where you have idea 1 and then you can branch off into more ideas from this specific idea. It doesn't always have to be linear. Like you can have multiple verticals of content based on your specific industry. So for ideation and scripting, look internally and also look at what other people are doing. And that's how I would recommend you start from there. And then from scripting, whenever you have the ideation down, and then for both ideation and scripting in the early stages, you could use a tool like GPT or like Claude, whatever you choose. The only thing I would recommend you to do if you do use these tools is give it good input to receive a good output. Because what people do is they just expect a good output with a very vague, minimalist input. And of course, ChatGPT needs, or Claude, any AI tool on the planet you need more information to act on. Because if it's acting on minimal information, it's going to give you like very vague answers. And that's where bad scripts are made. Because if you just go like, yeah, ChatGPT, give me like 10 objections. Okay, you can make me 10 scripts out of these. You're going to get it, yes. But those videos are not going to be good. You need to make sure that you're doing your own research. You need to make sure you're giving it enough information so it can give you good output information as well. So very important when it comes to using AI bots. You have to make sure that the input is good enough so you can receive a good output. And then of course, over time, once a chatbot gets built, you can perhaps start lowering down the depth of the input you're giving it because it already has pre-existing information. But tools like GPT and Claude sometimes tend to forget that information, so you might have to refer back to it. So that's what I would use for scripting, but ideation is something, of course, you can use, again, GPT and Claude for, but make sure that you're asking it good questions, feeding it enough data. Maybe if you have call recordings, you can put that in. Maybe if you have like screenshots of data, CSV files, put all of that in so you receive like a good output. Is what I'm trying to say. On the recording side of things, let me move some of this. On the recording side of things, just use your iPhone for now. You don't necessarily need like a professional camera, and this is something people do time and time again, where people will buy like $5,000 cameras, invest in this whole $10,000 setup and don't record. Your problem isn't the equipment. Your problem is not recording in the first place. Get consistent first and then invest in a proper equipment. Because if you do vice versa, then you'll just have a pretty set that you won't use. You need to get into the habit first before you invest in any sort of professional equipment. You can just use your iPhone for this right now. All you need is, if you don't even have lightings for some reason, just sit outside, because sun is pretty much kind of like the best lighting source you could ever use. It'll make sure your skin is flawless, the background looks nice, the phone camera is going to perform the best as well, because it has like a lot of light source, so you'll get a very good crisp footage. You can just use that. Or if you want, you can just go ahead and purchase like a ring light, and don't cheap out on any equipment that you purchase. So if you're going to get a ring light, if you're going to get a mic, don't get like the cheap $10 ones, because those ones are like, if anything, they'll just make things worse, and they keep breaking as well, so it like slows down everything. Anything that slows down, for me personally, I find it a little annoying, because I know I'm going to have to upgrade it anyways. So go with like if it's a ring light, go with like maybe like a $80 one. Make sure it's like built properly, it's big enough, it has, like solid material, so it won't break literally after like 2 use cases. So very important there as well. Even for a mic, just take my recommendation and just go with the DJI. Go with the DJI mic mini. Just go with that one. It's like $120 on Amazon. Just go with that one, and then you'll be pretty much set. Don't look at any other mic. Just go with this one. I'm no affiliation or anything. I just like to make things simple for people, and that's kind of like the simplest thing you can do, is just get that mic and just set it and forget it. Because audio quality is something that's also very important as well. And then for the actual, like the videos, just use the iPhone. Just use the back camera, use the front camera, and you'll be fine. Especially if you sit outside, or if you have like a proper lighting, you can use the front camera. You'll be fine. You just need to make sure that you're framing your content properly as well. So for example, let's say this is the iPhone frame, and I have a video on this, by the way. It's on my channel, and then I literally walk through on how to use your iPhone to create like a proper setup, like how to set it up properly. So I do recommend you watch that. But I'll give you the TLDR version of that, is making sure if this is your screen, have your head somewhere around here. Like make minimal room on the top. Because what some people do is like they'll be all the way at the bottom of here, and they have all of this like estate where nothing's happening. So we need to make sure you're properly framed, where your shoulders over here and then your face is over here. So there's like minimal space up front, minimal space on the sides, and this is something you can do. And then of course, when it comes to sets, there's multiple things you can play around. You can have like a full body shot if you want. And there's just multiple things you can do. But for now, to keep things simple, just have your frame over here. And then of course you have your body pretty much kind of like in between. So you want to make sure that your head doesn't go out of frame. Like you're not cutting it. Don't do this. So it has to be, let me just redo this because I'm making a mess. Let me just make this again. So your head has to be over here. Something like that. Cool. So that's pretty much the recording. Take care of that, take care of the equipment, and just get into the habit of actually recording. I cannot stress this enough. You need to get into the habit of recording first, and then perhaps if you want to upgrade your setup, you can. Because if you do the other way around, you're not going to use the setup. You might convince yourself you will, but I promise you, you will not use it. And then for the publishing, I know for now it'll seem like, yeah, Reeb, if I'm creating video content, I should post it on many platforms as possible. Post on Instagram, and then choose your secondary platform. So if it's LinkedIn, go LinkedIn. But if you don't have an idea of what the secondary platform is, I would recommend either TikTok or YouTube Shorts. YouTube is a powerhouse as well, especially if you get into the long form game. It is a strategy that takes a little longer, but once you get into the SEO side of things, once you're fully integrated into the content game, which short form content can be like a good stepping stool, at that point you can perhaps start going full in on YouTube as well, because YouTube is a great revenue generating platform as well. But then again, like I said, it's a completely different animal. So for now, you can just keep your Instagram as a primary platform, and then you can keep perhaps TikTok as your secondary platform. Just for TikTok, just pretty much gives engagement away for free. And if you're going to be creating content over here, you can maximize engagement rate over here as well. I do like LinkedIn, I do like YouTube, but I want to make sure that you have a system that you're following at the moment. And then once you get into the habit of rating this entire thing on autopilot, then you can of course expand to newer platforms. And notice I haven't mentioned editing, because editing is something you need to outsource. Like I'll put it over here, editing, outsource it, and spend no more than $25 a video at the moment. Like you do not need motion graphics. You need to start simple. Just pay $25, $10, whatever it costs you to get like good captions in and good B-roll in. Captions, B-roll, and of course cuts, because you're going to mess up in recording. You're going to have a lot of retakes. In this video, I've done a lot of retakes. The editor has pretty much cleaned all of it for me. Thank you, editor. But you have to make sure the B-roll, the captions, and the cuts, you're doing the kind of like the bare minimum to make sure that that's being taken care of as soon as possible. So yeah, so now just to recap, we have the ideation and scripting pretty much taken care of. Pain points, objections. You already look for content ideas that already are on the market, and then you perhaps, duplicate them, replicate them. And then you also ask yourself the questions like, okay, what do my clients ask me all the time? What are my common objections? What are my common pain points? What is the market actually looking for? What answers do they need? And you type all of those questions down, and then you use and then you can of course accelerate this process using GPT and Claude, and then also write down a whole script using GPT and Claude as well. The key things I would look for when it comes to writing a script using GPT and Claude is keep it simple. You need to make sure that you prompt it to keep it simple. Make sure it reads around 45 to 60 seconds. You need to make sure that it is structured. By structured, I mean it goes like this: hook, value, and then call to action. You need to make sure it's structured this way. And as a bonus, what you can also do is you can give it some examples of other people's content that are already doing well. So it has kind of like a framework on what to look for and what to kind of like get an idea of what type of content is this person looking for. Because you have to keep in mind that whatever's over here, you need to translate that into the AI software and then send it, and then you will receive a good solid output. Like, you need to make sure that the input is good to receive a solid output, and that's how you use pretty much AI to make sure that you have good scripts and ideations pretty much right off the bat. For recording, again, use your phone, ring light, DJI mic, tripod I guess is another bonus one you could perhaps use. And then publishing, just pick 2 platforms. Instagram, in my opinion, has to be one, and then secondary, it's pretty much up to you. It could be TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever you want. So yeah, that is all for pretty much today's video. And if you're a business doing over, let's say, like, 50K a month, and this is something you want implemented on your behalf, like the scripting, the recording, the editing, the publishing, this is something we can do for you, and it'll only take you 45 minutes on a weekly basis. And if you're in the market for that, there's a Calendly link right in the description. Just use that link to book a call with me, and then we can perhaps see how, we can help your business pretty much automate this entire process. Other than that, for more free stuff like this, just subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post a lot of valuable stuff on Instagram as well on a consistent basis, where I do interviews with other agency owners, other coaches, what's working, what's not working, because it's a very fast platform. Instagram, I can pick up my phone and do a story, do a post pretty much right off the bat. For YouTube, I have to be a little more structured. So if you want best of both worlds, subscribe here, and then also check me out on Instagram as well. But other than that, if you do have any questions or if you have any comments to make sure you go into the comment section below, and I'll make sure I'll get to you very fast. I'll see you next week.